So I'm recording already. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Temitope. Another person just joining, our second facilitator, Olaleko, is here, Onikoko, and someone else just joining, Kingsley Newton. Hi, Newton. Hi, Kingsley. Can you just turn on your video or mute your mic to just say hi to us? Let's be sure that you're here. Hi, Kingsley. Yeah, Kingsley is here. Hello, Kingsley. Can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me? I can hear you.
Yes, fantastic. Fantastic.
All
I
right.
can hear you.
How are you, Alan? How are you?
I'm very fine. So nice to have you here. So nice to have you here. All right. A quick question. Why did you register to be a part of this program?
Okay. Now, for me, the reason that sorry, can I turn off my camera?
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
All right. So, for me, the reason why I joined was because so far the society, I've had this this discussion with some people. Thing is, the society has put pressure on the male child or the male gender, making us believe that we have to carry the whole society on our shoulder, carry the problem of everybody upon ourselves, and they forget that we are humans too. We have emotions, and then it looks like men are not allowed to cry, to show their emotion, show their weak. It shows that you are weak as a man if you cry, or if you try, even if you try to tell your fellow guy that, guy, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. You hear things like, Baba, lock up, you are a man. You should, you should know you're a man. You should handle the whole thing yourself. So, people tend to pay attention to the female in the society, put pressure.
Yeah.
Male commit suicide too. Male go through things. So because of that, and when I saw this the flyer online, I felt like, wow, fantastic. It's something I really want to listen to, I want to be part of. So that is why I joined.
Thank you so much. That's a good feedback. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm doing all of this, because I just felt a lot was not being said about the boy child, and I had to go through this process. I thought through all of these and I asked myself, what can I do to help? And I had to start the One Boy project that is just a few months old, and this is more like our first major event or seminar that we're hosting, and we want to keep this on for a very long time. So without wasting much of our time, our first facilitator for the evening is ready. Her name is Alima Layani. I would like to just read her profile very quickly. Alima is an advocate against gender-based violence, and she's the face of a relentless survivor of sexual violence, and the founder and executive director of the Life After Abuse Foundation. Through this platform, Alima has empowered more than 7,000 persons, uncovered 128 cases of sexual child abuse, granted survivors access to free psychosocial with the support of 32 individual and organizational partners across Africa. She is the pioneer of the Men Can End Violence movement, an exclusive initiative aimed at providing education, mentorship, and psychosocial support to men with an indirect reach of more than 20,000 online and on-site engagement, as well as a fast-growing network of 480 members across Africa. Today, we have the singular honor and pleasure of having Alima Layani join us. Hi, Alima. So nice to have you this evening. Please, can you turn on your video, say hi to us, and you can go right into your session. You have about 15 to 20 minutes for your first session, and the next speaker will come in, and then we'll have question and answer time.
Hi, Alan. My video
Hi,
is
Alima.
on. My video is actually on. I don't know if you can see me.
Yes, yes, I can see it now. I can see your video now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for your kind invitation to touch on such an important topic. And thank you everybody for being here. I believe that men's mental health is an issue that begs attention, and it takes both genders actually to advance this cause for to enable men break out of their session, break out of the man box basically. So today I'm here to talk about emotional stability and depression in men, basically overcoming depression in men. And I would like to pretty much just start with a foundational statistics basically on where we are as a world with men's mental health. Um, so men's mental health is often overlooked. I mean, as we all know, as the first speaker actually said, the guy that just came on, um, even if it's like a big issue that is highly prevalent, and when ignored, men's mental health can affect physical health and life expectancy. Also, untreated men's mental health condition can lead to a high risk behavior, including substance abuse, gambling, and all forms of addiction. An example is the violence we see all around the world, especially in the US currently, the issue with gun violence. So the issue is not the guns. The issue is that the guns are in the wrong hands, because we equally have women equally have access to guns. So while we're having only men carry out mass shootings, so that sends a very strong message to the world that the issue is not actually the guns. The issue is the men. The issue is, the guns in the wrong hands, which is broken men, basically. Now, a statistic shows that men are 3 times more likely to die from suicide than women, just like the first speaker also, highlighted. And then mental health has a big impact on physical health. Men have lower access to social support of friends, relatives, community. So the first speaker actually made my job very easy, because he actually mentioned how he would reach out to his friends, his male friends, and it would be like, I mean, you're a man, you should be able to, handle certain things because you're a man. Not forgetting that men are equally human beings. Men are not robots. I promise you, to pinch a man, he will feel pain just like women. So men should be treated as such. They should be treated as human beings with feelings and emotions. What are the symptoms of mental health in men? Anger, aggressiveness, irritability, frustration, substance abuse, trouble concentrating, persistent feelings of worry, engagement in high-risk activities like gender-based violence, like domestic violence, like gun violence, like terrorism, like suicide, unusual behavior that concerns others or gets in the way of daily life. Thoughts of suicide, again, like the first speaker said. Now, what are the common causes of trauma that men suffer? We've worked with thousands of men and boys, and we've come to realize that and also based on research, we've come to realize that the top three types of trauma that men and boys actually suffer is childhood neglect. The fact that we tell a boy to be a man, we ignore his feelings. We tell him to suck it up. Lack of the father figure. We have come to realize that a lot of boys grew up in homes that in homes where their fathers did not really have a relationship with them, basically. And this has really affected lots of men that were boys. Now, abuse. This is also, a very, very common case, a very, very prevalent case that, again, isn't really talked about because of the silence culture, because society has found a way to actually silence men and boys. So a statistic by the United Nations says that 1 in 3 girls will be sexually abused before the age of 18. But a statistic by the WHO also says that suicide among men is higher than among women. So why are we having more men dying from suicide, from trauma? Because really the big name is just suicide. But what people really suffer from is trauma that they are unable to handle, and then they just go to commit suicide. So why do we have more men dying if we have more women being abused, more women being, more women who suffer domestic violence, sexual violence? So why do we have more men dying? Simple answer is the fact that women and girls have safe spaces where they can express their emotions, but men and boys do not have that. So it's easy for a girl child to report sexual abuse, to report physical abuse. It's easy for a woman to report domestic violence and not be judged. But on the flip side, it's more difficult for a woman, for a man, because when it comes out to tell his story, it's either judged, it's either mocked. And I'm glad that we have women, on this on this in this meeting, because everybody has to take responsibility at this point. Even I at some point had to take responsibility. Childhood neglect, we all know what that is. Like I just explained, the fact that we tell boys to suck up their emotions. Now, what is the genesis of the problem? Why do we have a high rate of suicide among men? Why is it that men are constantly dying in silence? Why do we have more prisons? Why is it that when we visit prisons, we find more men in prisons? Why is it that when it comes to issues of addiction, issues of drug use, we have more men? Very simple. Simple but complex. Genesis of the problem: they ask boys not to cry, not to openly express their emotions, not to show weakness, not to seek help, not to be like women, not to express pain. This is pretty much the genesis of the problem. What happens when you're hurt? What happens to 90% of hurt people? They hurt people, right? What happens when you're angry? As a human being, I'm not even as a man. Sometimes when you're angry and then someone just comes in your face, you just blow up in the person's face. And somehow, even if this is a negative emotion, you feel better, right? Because your emotion was able to find expression. But men do not have that. We have so many unrealistic societal expectations that society continues to project to men. Be a man, be a man. Men should be tough, they should be respected, they should be strong, they should be powerful, they should be successful. Men should have many sexual partners. Men are superior to women. We have boys are actually taught that from childhood. We're not really here to talk about gender roles, but men's power lies in their physics. It means that your power is in how strong or how muscular you are. Men should fight back when pushed. Sex is an entitlement. Men should avoid childcare. Men should avoid domestic violence. Men should always have the final say in a relationship. And mind you, these three last values, societal toxic values that I just stated, is the basis of domestic violence in many homes today. The fact that women don't get the support that they need from men, is the basis of so many divorces today. But again, we're not here to talk about marriage. We're just here to highlight the key issues. Now, how can you manage your emotions? Now, as a man, I know that you have been taught all these, since childhood. Suck it up. Don't show help. Don't seek help. Don't show emotions. And these are basically, created some sort of void in men's hearts, basically. So now, how do you manage emotions? How do you bring yourself out from there? Now, we've worked with a lot of men that will say that, they're struggling with intimacy in marriage. And mind you, this is also one of the bases of conflict in marriage. The fact that men cannot connect to their wives. And, it's easy to just throw the jabs and say that, men are robots, men are these, men are violent. But really, by the time you really dig down, you realize that, a man that married a woman, I'm sure that his desire to connect with his wife is not that he wants to be a robot, like by default, but these are just the values that have been taught to him, that he has adopted and now is affecting him. Now, I know that, all these values that society has projected on men as cause depression, which brings us to the second topic that I have been invited to speak about. Lots of men are dealing with depression, and the sad thing is there's really no help for men. There are no social support centers, there are no NGOs, there are no helplines. which makes it kind of really difficult. But I truly hope that you are able to adopt some of these key points and practice them, and I really hope that they become helpful. Now, how can you manage your emotions if you are a man and you're dealing with emotion, you're dealing with depression? Now, number one, understand where the depression is coming from. Understand the situation. What exactly is the issue? Um, don't be scared to visit your childhood. And when I mean visit, I don't mean visit your home, like your emotions basically. What I mean, were you abused? Were you sexually abused? Were you physical abused by your father? Were you emotionally abused? Were you neglected? I mean, come to terms. Don't run away from the issue. Highlight the issue. You need to understand that before you can get help, you need to be able to come to terms with your story. I mean, what exactly led to this depression? Don't run away from it. Confront it. Understand it. Come to terms with it. Understand that what has happened, and nothing can be done about what has happened. However, you have that the power is in you to whatever it is that you want to do with your pain. The power is actually in your hands. Now, the second point is allow yourself to feel. Like I said, lots of men have had their emotions locked up. Some people cannot, some people do not even have the ability to feel. They cannot even feel. And it's not like they cannot feel. The emotions are there, but again, because they've been groomed to shut the emotions out. So it's difficult for them to cry. Some men even find it very hard. They'll tell you, I don't even know why I cannot cry. I don't know why I can't express. Some men cannot even show sympathy. They cannot even show compassion, or they can't be empathic. It's not like they're bad people, right? It's just the way they've been grown. So if a man here understand that it's okay to cry, I believe that the next speaker, Olalekan, would shed more light on this, because it comes to talk about vulnerability in men. So I'll not really dwell on it too much, but understand that it's okay to cry. Now, also interrupt, angry thoughts. I know that if you suffer trauma, I'm sure that all of us on this platform, we suffered trauma at some point in our lives. It's just something that is just a vital part of life, basically. And I know what it means to be angry at life. I was sexually abused as a child, and I know that I was in a bad place at some point in my life until I found some sort of healing, and I was able to, overcome my pain and my trauma. But it's not the same with many people out there, especially men that do not really have help. So I know what it means to be angry. You're just angry. You feel like you want to go back, change things, or you want to hurt someone because it hurts you. Always interrupt angry thoughts when they come, and try to replace them with another thought. Now, set boundaries. As someone who has suffered trauma, again, there's so many triggers. There's so many things that can trigger you. Maybe if you're a man and you have suffered sexual abuse, basically. Sometimes this is going for a family function where the abuser will be visiting, can be a trigger, right? So you might want to set that kind of boundary, because you know that if you visit, it takes you back to your childhood, and then you begin to think about everything that's happened, and it brings you back to a bad place. So you might just want to set boundaries. This doesn't mean that you live in unforgiveness, basically, because if you live in unforgiveness, it just makes matters worse. You can actually forgive somebody and still not be in the same space with the person, or still not, and the relationship might not really be restored. But for your own mental health, it's important for you to maybe not necessarily even forgive the person, just forgive the situation. Understand that what has happened, and then move on from it. Now, start journaling. This is something that many people do not really practice, but journaling actually helps. Journaling helped me. Before I came out with my story, I wrote my story in like an entire notebook of how I was abused and how I was able to overcome what I'd been through, and just having myself read my story and read my healing process, my recovery process, all the lessons I'd learned, read how it affected me, how I struggled with rejection, with anger, with how it affected pretty much everything in my life. It helped me overcome that trauma, and it helped me understand that I had recovered. Now, practice meditation, just find, some quiet place to practice meditation, and your meditation should not just be we are actually in charge of our thoughts. I don't know if you know, but you are actually in charge of your thoughts. When you find yourself in a quiet place, even sometimes when your mind wants to take you to wants to take you down memory lane, all the gory memories, you can redirect your thoughts and just focus on the good, on the good, whatever it is that you're thankful for in your life. I mean, your friends that have come into your life, the good things that have happened in your life, you can begin to shift your thoughts and focus more on the positive things that have happened in your life. Now, what are the practical steps that you can take as I conclude? Coming out from a place of trauma and a bad place physically, you can improve your communication skills, right? Now, I've worked with some men that would say that they don't have a relationship with their father physically abused them. And I even have a friend who is currently married who doesn't want to have a child. And because he went through physical violence, that his father really abused him, he didn't have a relationship with his father, And then when we counseled him, we just told him that I think that the best thing to do is just to sit down with your father and have a conversation with your father. Now, I know that sometimes there are tough conversations that cannot be had at certain times or at certain points in time, but there are ways that you can manage the situation. If you know your father or anybody who hurt you basically, and you feel like closure would help you come out of your pain or your trauma, it is very important to have that communication, like to have that conversation. Just sit your father down. I know that this 21st century fathers, they are different from our own fathers, but I mean that's your father. You should know a way to, just sit him down and have the conversation. If you feel like you are being neglected or your partner is talking down on you in a relationship and it's affecting your mental health, anybody that is constantly speaking in a condescending manner would definitely struggle with their mental health. You might want to just sit her down and have a conversation with her and, express yourself basically. Don't just shut yourself out and just say, okay, you know what, I'm just a man because, society has told me to be a man, so I'm just going to take it all in. She's throwing jobs, she's doing this, I'm just going to take it all in. No, it's important for you to communicate, set boundaries. If someone talks to you, keep talking to you in a way that they're not comfortable with, just have the conversation with the person in a polite manner. Now, research shows that physical exercise actually helps with depression, actually helps with depression. You might want to read up on it. So, but from our research and from some of the men that I've worked with, we've gathered that physical exercise actually helps. So you might want to sign up for, you might want to go to a gym and sign up to the gym, or maybe if you cannot really afford it, you can take a walk on the street or go up and down the stairs. I mean, whatever it is that you can actually do to, let out those emotions basically. So I'm not really a fitness enthusiast, but I have a friend actually, his name is Sheldon Simone. So he has that for men as a form of therapy, basically. And it has really worked for him. And I'm sure that it will definitely work for you. Now, my very last point as I close is get professional help. I know that this is something again that has been stigmatized basically. When you say you want to get therapy, everybody just begins to judge you and all of that. But I need to understand that sometimes it's just beyond you. Sometimes you can meditate all you want, you can exercise all you want, you can communicate all you want. But what you actually need, and then it won't work, you won't feel better. And then you might want to actually explore the option of seeking professional help. Like I said, I know that help is not really available for men and boys, in this part of the world, and therapy could be very expensive. But there are applications basically, like Shout. I know that the UK has a mental health application that helps, everybody basically. It might not really be exclusive to men, but I mean, it's something to start with. So in closing, I'll just like to encourage every boy and man, okay, there's no boy, sorry, every man here to, just learn to express yourself, speak to people, speak to your friends. If you know that you cannot even really afford therapy, if you have a trusted friend, responsible trusted friends, you can always reach out to them. And I wish you all the very best with your healing process. Thank you very much.
Alan, I'm not sure we can hear you. Or is it just me?
I can hear him too.
She's done. All right. So can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I can.
So can you hear me now, please?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I can. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Halima. That was a wonderful session. You just went straight to the point and you just hit the nail on the head. And that was an amazing session we just had. And I don't know why I was having issues. So thank God I joined from 2 platforms. So it was easier to just switch. So we're going straight into the next session, and to just save our time, I will not be reading his profile, but he's going to be speaking on vulnerability for men and how to handle those demands. And one of the things I've discovered is the fact that men actually suffer in silence because there are so many pressures on them. I have been a victim of being pressured over life issues about getting married, about settling down, about buying your own car at a particular age. We understand all of that. We all want to have the best life. But one thing that is also important to note is the fact that you cannot have it all at the same time. You cannot, except if you want to steal. What you cannot afford, you cannot afford. Life is that basic and simple. What is more important is that you're living through life in your own best way, and through the right means. So this person, his name is Olaleko Owonikoko. He leads a mental hub initiative called or Cluttered, and he has over the years been able to use music as a means of therapy. He'll be taking us through the next session, the next couple of minutes, about 15 to 20 minutes. I'm sure a lot of people have questions that they would like to ask us or ask the facilitator. So we'll just make the session brief so that we can deal with some questions. So right about now, the next voice or face of the person you'll be seeing and interacting with will be the face of Olaleko Owonikoko. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Helen. It's so good to be here, and I'm so glad that we're having this conversation. And thank you, Halima, too. That was packed. You know, she said so many profound things and, you know, basically covered everything. So, well, I like that so that I can focus on maybe just a few things, you know. So I'm glad that we're here today, even though it also seems that there are more ladies here or more women here than men, if I'm not mistaken. And if I try to ask, you know, some of the men here, you would also realize that some of the men here are probably people who have started their own journey of emotional intelligence, you know, and that's why we can even attend an event like this, because we realize the need, right? Most men do not, you know, realize that need, because, and that's still part of the problem that we're dealing with. That's part of that's the result of the kind of, you know, life that we've had to live, you know, and it's difficult, you know, being a man is difficult, and that does not in any way reduce the difficulty that it might be to be a girl child in our present society. But that should also point our attention to the fact that the same society raised both of us. Men have problems, or essentially that women have issues to deal with, but that we have a society that is no longer, I mean, what they've passed on to us can no longer sustain us. Maybe it was relevant at a particular time, but it can no longer sustain us. And we exist at both ends of the problem. And sometimes it's often difficult for either of us, and when I say either of us, I mean men, women, to understand and see from the lenses of the other person. You know, there's certain things that a woman, perhaps by reason of the society or maybe some other biological factor, sees and expects, and that sometimes we men, we don't just get it, right? And we are more prone to react from our own lenses and from the situations that we have been raised with. And sometimes this is a lot of conflict, internally and in terms of interpersonal relationship. It's a lot of conflict for us. And that's why my first point today, I'll just say that emotional intelligence is, simple. It's about accepting and understanding our emotions, accepting, understanding it. And on the basis of that, we're able to extend the same grace to other people. If we do not understand and accept the validity of our own emotions, it becomes difficult for us to extend the same courtesy to other people. And that's where a lot of conflict comes from, right? In recent times, there have been a lot of conversation about asking men to be emotionally vulnerable. And that's beautiful. We say men can cry too and all of those things. And that's beautiful. And I know that a lot of people here would expect that, we speak to the men, men, you can do this, do that, and all of that. But many times in my own line of work, I've realized that it's often not a knowledge problem, right? It's not that men do not see that there's a problem somewhere. It's not that men do not realize that our inability to explore and, our emotions does not cause us more harm, but many men do not know how to, right? And oftentimes you cannot expect the person who does not know how to do what they don't know how to do, right? Because all of our lives, we were not allowed to, right? So it becomes very difficult. And that's why I understand that it's going to take some time, it's going to take patience to eventually help men to get to that point. Even personally, I still deal with, several certain areas, of emotional intelligence. It's a long journey, and that's to the men that are here, So then I want to talk about the fact that creating an enabling environment, for ourselves to be emotionally vulnerable, to be emotionally intelligent, rather, creating an enabling environment for ourselves. It has to start with the fact that we accept that we are who we are, and we have had the kind of life that we have. That lack of acceptance causes us a lot of mental stress and mental confusion. There has to be an acceptance. This is how I am. This is how I have grown up. And this is the difficulties that I have with it. That acceptance is extremely important, and is something I think Halima was talking about, allowing ourselves, to express, it must come from the place of understanding that there's something has happened, in terms of growth, birth, upbringing, and all of that, that is not making me, that this is not the best that I can be. This is not how things are supposed to be. I am the way I am, but because of certain things, accepting that this is not the best, because many times when we are confronted with our lack of emotional intelligence, our first response is to excuse it away or to explain it away. And that's because we still want to believe that, no, I'm fine. It is you that is wrong. I am fine. You are the one who does not understand me, right? But we have to accept that there's something wrong. And that's why I said earlier that it's not something is wrong with men, women are fine. It's an entire society, right? And then we need to start to rethink. So that's acceptance, right? Then there needs to be understanding. We are not going to move from 0 to 100 in days, right? We are going to need to understand ourselves. When I do things like this, why do I react like this? The other time someone said this to me, why was I triggered? We may not necessarily have the luxury of therapy sessions with a professional, therapist, but we can have conversations with ourselves. And Halima talked about journaling, journaling. Those are some of the things that you question yourself. One thing that helped me a lot is because I started to write as a very young person, and I had to ask myself a lot of questions, but then we can explore with the aim to understand, why do I react like this? Why are other people different from me? What are the differences that I am seeing in my interactions with people? I'm in school, I have roommates. This person acts this way. This person reacts like this. This is not how I act. What is happening? Why? What is the basis of that difference? If we can be in a place to have those conversations with ourselves, we may not necessarily find the entire solution to those things, but with such conversations, we have insights. We are becoming more comfortable with ourselves, with our emotions, with what is happening. It doesn't even mean that the next moment we're not going to probably burst out in throw tantrum in a situation, but we can always come back and ask ourselves, and perhaps we would start finding a map of what is happening within our emotions, and then we probably can start revisiting what our life has been, and then we can find that understanding. And then the third thing that helps us to do is that it helps us to begin to think about other people. If I react this way, can that reaction from that person be a result or a product of something that they also have experienced? Recently, I had a conversation with my friend, a lady, and I just understood why she was always angry about a change of plan. You think that something as simple as a change of plan. I changed, maybe we have a plan, something reasonable in my own mind, changes the plan, and then she goes angry, and then I in turn become angry because she's angry that she did not accept my reasonable change of plan. It becomes that web, that cycle that keeps going on. But the last time I had to ask myself, this has happened like 3 times. Why is this happening? And then I asked the question, we had a conversation about it, and then I realized how important, I may not understand what the triggers are, but I understood how important it was for her. Now it's helping me manage whatever differences or how to relate with that. And that's emotional intelligence. It's not necessarily that I am a saint, that the other person is a saint, but it's that I accept that in the course of this, my life, there are many influences, and I'm going to have different reactions. I'm going to have different ways of seeing things, but that other people also have that right, and that is going to create conflict, and we must learn to, relate with ourselves, with grace and understanding. So that's really what emotional intelligence is about, right? Women sometimes seem to, be in a place where they are more able to have, be comfortable with their emotions, and that's because society allows women to, and Alima said all of that, but men, as a child, they just tell you, you cannot cry. Not necessarily because so the crying is not the issue. It's the role we are raised to play in the society, and which is to be provider and to be protector, so imagine, I'm sure none of us want to get home and then maybe there's a robbery or something, and then our gateman or our security guard is, out there crying profusely. We want that show of strength, right? So sometimes I've also realized that, and this is where I would put, focus of the rest of my conversation. I've also realized that it is not just enough to tell men to be emotionally vulnerable. It's also important for the society to accept the vulnerability of men, right? We have to, because both of us, were raised by the same society. So as we are learning to become more in tune, and the reason why I'm not talking about certain specifics is that, please, everything that Alima said, extremely important. So so that I can just focus on this. But the same reason why we are finding it difficult is the same reason why many people, many women or other members of the society, including men themselves, cannot accept the vulnerability of, of other men. Before this conversation started, someone sent me an event, a lady sent me an event by one of my favorite artists. And then I add this teary eye emoji because I wouldn't be able to attend. And then she told me not to send that kind of emoji. And I'm like, why? She said she's not comfortable with it. It's very possible that if a lady had sent that, it would have been, oh, you know. But then because I'm a guy, she wasn't comfortable. But it's because the society has also not taught her how to respond or how to accept that we also have to be vulnerable. And most times, while the men are putting in the work, or why people like Alan are creating an environment, you know, or to have this conversation, women also have to start accepting the reality. It's not just to say cry when you are in pain. It's that the last time that he cried, or crying is even far-fetched, the last time that he said he was tired, how was that received? The society will say, well, social media society will say, I cannot marry a man that is earning 50K. There might be some sense in that, right? I cannot marry a man that is earning 50K without considering all the factors. So let's just assume that, right? And then you marry a man that is earning 500K. You already understand that that man has the standard to attain to, because it was chosen because of a particular standard. So let's say, I mean, we all say God forbid, but things happen. That man loses his job and then falls back to 50K earning man. It becomes extremely difficult for such type of person to be vulnerable in that situation, because there is already an expectation, right? So we both need to learn, we both need to accept this vulnerability that we're talking about. We both need to become more understanding, right? And in terms of our expression, you ask a man, your brother, your sister, to talk to you when they're in a situation and they are not talking to you. But you must understand that they are not talking to you is actually part of the problem that you're trying to help them. Not that there's a different problem and you want them to talk to you so that you can help them solve the problem. But the problem is that they are not able to talk to you. So understanding and saying things that I understand that it might be difficult to talk about it, but I just want you to know that I care, might not necessarily get them to talk at that moment, but it reminds them that there's a place of love, there's a place of unconditional acceptance that they can fall back to. And it's one thing that men have not enjoyed, you know, really in our lifetime. And it's something that sometimes it's difficult, you know, to give to other people, except, you know, when we are trying to meet that need, right? So by creating an environment and helping people understand that, you know what, you might not know how to talk about it, but just know that I have your back. You know, it's easy to say that to a boyfriend, maybe more difficult to say that to a brother, you know, or to your father or something, but accepting that we all need to get better. We all need to be more accepting of these emotions. Crying as an activity itself is an end result that eventually, when we become, I have all my friends, I mean, all my core friends, I've seen them cry. Right. So, and it means that, you know, there's progress on our end. And I have cried too. I mean, there was a day where there's an issue that I needed to deal with. They locked the door, sat me down. You must deal with this issue today. And I broke down and wept. And, you know, so it's about accepting. I would not be able to do that if I do not think that I'm unconditionally loved. If I do not think that it was a safe environment. So as we are asking men to, we must also create an environment, not necessarily by doing so much, but by helping people understand that we get it. We are, you know, we have weaknesses ourselves. You have things that you're going to deal with, and we understand it. And together we can make progress. Together we can make our lives better. That's for me is the focus. That for me is how we can help ourselves. That's for me is what emotional intelligence is we are navigating our emotions intelligently. We understand what our vulnerabilities are. We understand where we're trying to get to, and we're taking it one step at the other. So my final charge to the men is to understand that we need to, be comfortable with our emotions. We need to have conversations about it. We need to talk to ourselves about it. We will be better for it, and to understand that life is hard. We are going to do our best. Like Alan said, life is hard. We're going to do our best. And then to intentionally put ourselves in friendship and situations where we know that we can be loved. And then to the women to understand that we also contribute to the environment that makes it either easy or either difficult for men to be vulnerable. And if sometimes we allow ourselves, to accept that vulnerability, it might not be immediate, but men will get to a point, and I'm talking about the men in our own lives, will get to a point where they are more comfortable to be emotionally vulnerable. And then if we can now, help them have the conversations with them. So thank you guys. That's all from my end.
Wow. That was another powerful session. And please let me be sure if you can hear me, please. Hello, guys.
Yes,
can you
I
hear
can.
me?
Yes,
All
I
right.
can.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. That was another powerful session. And I am so excited that this seminar actually held, because I had many reasons not to continue, but I just said to myself, what do I have to lose eventually? I have few participants and I have facilitators who are willing to do this. And I just had to do it. And in the course of doing this, a lot of questions kept popping in. And I just said, for the questions, I will go ahead so that we can have clarity, we can have people even treat this question. So earlier on, I was sharing about how I had to deal with a mental relapse in 2012. That was about 10 years ago. And it was just because I was not speaking up. Not like what I was going through was super different from what every other person was going through. It was just because I refused to just speak up. And it really did affect me. It affected everything about me, affected my academics, affected how I related. Sorry about that. The network is trying to play a trick on me, but I am back. All right, so I was speaking about how I had this mental relapse, and it wasn't because of anything special. It was just because I was not speaking up. And ever since that experience, I discovered the importance to always have a reason to just talk about every situation, because I realized that in most of the situations we are going through, they are difficult because we are not talking about it. The moment you decide to talk about it, ask questions, share your situation or the problem with someone, solution just have a way of coming up or coming around. So I have a few questions, and I can see someone raising a hand. Please use the chat box to drop a question. But if you want to speak, just let me know. Ololade, let me know what you want to do. If you want to ask your question, I can see your hand is up. Let me know if you want to turn on your video to ask the question, or you want to drop a message in the chat box, and that is fine. So I have questions here I would like us to really handle, and this particular question is something that I think one will go to Alima and one will go to Lekon. Alima was talking about journaling. Someone is asking, how can a man who has been abused speak up without feeling ashamed, and how can he also journal that situation? Okay, I would like Alima to just quickly treat that question. How can I, as a man who has been abused, speak up freely without feeling ashamed? Or I think Olekon should answer that question, or would you suggest should answer that question? I know everyone is quiet.
I think Halima would
Would
well,
do
because
justice to the question.
about the abuse part. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question? I had to take a call. I'm so sorry.
Okay. So the question is simple. The man is saying, how can I, as a man who has been abused, speak up without feeling ashamed?
Okay. So it depends on the what you mean by speaking up. Do you mean speaking up to get help or speaking up to just tell your story? If
Yeah, I think it's help, like speaking up for
okay,
help.
okay, to get help. Can I know what type of abuse? Was it sexual or physical?
Yes,
What type
sexual abuse.
of
Yes,
sexual abuse?
sexual abuse. Like
Okay.
more like the abuse was from a male to male.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I think that, I mean, just three key things that needs to be done first is to, first of all, carry out a full medical checkup when abuse has happened. Um, the what you need to do is, you need to do first is to, get medical help, basically. And then the second thing is to get psychological help. So again, there aren't really so much, initiatives out there that are helping men and boys. So I'm not really sure how, you can really be able to get psychosocial support. But you can, but first of all, just try to get medical help just to be sure that, there are no STDs or STIs. That's like the most important thing. And the second thing is, you might just want to reach out to me personally. I don't know if you are fine with reaching out to me personally and see how we can, my initiative has an online counseling platform where we counsel men and boys. So you can I'm going to put my number in the chat room now, and you can message me anytime on WhatsApp, and then we'll work towards getting you counseling. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Alima. That was quite thoughtful. We really appreciate that. So this person, I think this question will go directly to Lekon. Please, you can also use the chat box. Ololade, you're yet to respond to what you want to do. We don't know if you want to ask a question or not, but we know your hand is up. Okay, she said she wants to ask a question. Okay, Ololade, please, you have the floor now. You can ask your question if you want to turn your video on. You can ask your question now.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you.
Can you speak up a bit?
All right. Is it better now? Can you hear me clearly now?
Do you want to take off your headset and just use the normal speaker?
Oh, no.
Yes, it's better without it, yes.
Thank you for the session. Thank you, Alima and Mr. Liko, for that wonderful session. Please, I have a question. It's just one question, and I want to hear it from Alima, and I also want to hear it from Mr. Onikoko. My question is this: it's easy for, like how he said, it's common for us to tell men to open up, say what they have to say, don't be afraid to be vulnerable and the like. Please, I want to know, how can you open up? How can you be vulnerable and still keep your self-esteem? Because I'm talking because I related with someone, and then he's always keeping to himself because he thinks that he's going to appear weak before me. And then he can't be that man figure. He can't be the man figure. He cannot think that things to be because I'll perceive him as a weak person. So I want to know the kind of answer to give to him or how to relate with him, knowing that even if you open up and you're vulnerable, you can still keep your self-esteem. You're still that man. You cannot be superhero all the time, but then you still have the respect. So, Anima, please, can you give me your view? And I also want to hear from Goku. Thank you. That's my question.
Thank you for your question. Like I said earlier during my presentation, that everybody has a responsibility. And what's our responsibility basically? We all have like males in our circles. It's just to show empathy and compassion. Basically, that's just the least you can do for men, basically. So when a man comes to you, for instance, your friend, the first thing to do is to again thank them for opening up to you, because it actually took a lot for them to open up to you about their struggles. So you thank them, that you say, thank you for sharing your story with me. I'm sorry that you went through what you went through. You know, nobody deserves to go through abuse. And then after hearing that story, depending on what exactly the situation is. So you mentioned that your friend thinks that opening up feels like he's weak or he's vulnerable. Now you try to reassure him. Now a lot of men actually have that mentality, and I promise you, it's just a social construct, because we have worked with lots of boys and men that in a second, they will literally open up to you about their struggles with addiction, pornography. Why? Because we created some sort of safe space for them. So I don't want you to see your male friend as different from your female friend. I'm sure that your female friend, if your female friend comes to you, you know a way to just advise the person and all of that. So I need you to create that sort of safe space for your male friend, and then just tell him that, I mean, whatever it is, that just tell him that it's not weak. It's not weak to tell your story. It's not weak to be vulnerable. Being a man doesn't mean that you cannot tell your story, or you cannot, you are the one who will create that safe space for him, right? So if you don't judge him, even if you don't have the answers, just try to assure him basically that it's normal for him to feel the way he's feeling, that he's a human being first before he's a man. And it's fine, it's completely fine to feel certain emotions. So it's just something that you need to do, basically. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, I think that's cool. So can Lekon just speak about that? So I think she requested that for both facilitators.
All right, so that happens every time, not even just with men. It's interestingly, but of course more men. But just like Alima said, you have a responsibility there as a friend, and I'm not saying that you are going to heal him or solve his problem for him, but you have, you can help. You can offer help. So I would say that I'm basically just what Alima said. Your goal is to offer your own help, right? For example, a statement can be, sometimes the reason why sometimes you are trying to help someone and they don't see it as help is that other people's vulnerability also exposes our own vulnerability, right? Sometimes the way we react to people is a reflection of what we also are vulnerable of. For example, so if it comes and as shared, you said all of that, one thing you want to do is to ensure that you comment on his strength, and not just while you are not indulging, like, wow, that's serious. I really admire your strength to have gone through all of that and still be able to survive like this, to be able to be like this. You are saying that I accept that there's a situation. I see how difficult it can be, but then, like, I admire the fact that you have been able to, so that's you empathizing, and you're also commenting, right? He's most likely what he's going to hear the most part, as a man, is that part where you said, wow, I respect the strength that you have shown, right? And as conversation goes, try not to make the conversation about that, about the issue, or then as you guys relate in other areas or in other things, then there's a mention of that. Of course, do not indulge and do not avoid certain issue, but be clear on the situation and be clear on why you appreciate or why you think or what they have been able to do. I would give an example. I was once in a difficult situation in school. I couldn't figure out how to coordinate like a large set of people. And I had my girlfriend, in a bid to encourage me, kept saying, I believe you can do it. I know you can do it. I know you can do it. But you know what I was hearing? I was hearing, I need you to just do this thing. You are beginning to embarrass me in this space. That was what I was hearing, right? That was what I was hearing. And I just like, okay, it's fine, right? But then I spoke to another friend, and the friend was like, I know that you sabi this thing. So if you are not understanding it, maybe you are using a method that is not working. Try change your method. And I felt like, wow, this person believes in me, right? And then I did find a solution. The same people love me the same way, right? They have the same concern. But, sometimes the language, sometimes commenting on something the person has done before that they were able to pull through encourages and encourages them to be able to like, see, this is just an aspect, this is just something. It might be difficult, it might be challenging, but I've seen you do something else in other place, and I know that this is not a question of your worth, this is not a question of your ability, this is just a situation, and I know that either with me or you are going to figure it out, and you would either by getting help somewhere, but I know that this is just a separate situation apart from you. So I think that that's the goal with whatever you converse with the person at the end of the day.
Thank you so much. All right, so we have another question from Deji Adeyemi. So Deji, please, can you just unmute your mic and ask your question? Okay, another person, Chinyere.
Yeah,
After
okay.
Deji, we'll take Chinyere's question.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I said a question asked me because, okay, first of all, thank you, Mr. Like I used to call you, Mr. Alakara, Mr. Wakara, yeah. And thank you, Alima. Okay, before I ask my question, I would like to say two things. Alima, thank you for what you said. You said that neglecting a child is not just about not being there for the person, like the father not being present, like going to work, trying to look for money, but it also includes when you tell a child, don't cry. When you tell a boy, don't be strong, be bold, and stuff like that. And I think that actually goes a long way to help understand child neglect. Child neglect is not just about when you're not there. You can be there and still neglect the child. And Mr. Lekon, thank you for what you said, that it's not a knowledge problem, that most of us men, we have this knowledge. But the problem now becomes when you are unable to transfer that knowledge into a realistic application, right? So it's not just a knowledge problem. Like most of us men, we know that it's okay to cry sometimes. We know that, yeah, you can be emotional, it's okay, but how and when? So my question is directly to Alima. You were talking about overcoming your childhood trauma and stuff like that. And my question was, what does it really mean to overcome? At what point do you think you get to overcome? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deji, for that powerful question. Over to you, Alima.
Hello, Deji. Thank you so much for being honest and vulnerable with your story. Nobody really deserves to go through neglect at all. I know that is some sort of void that.
Hey, hold on. Did I said I was neglected?
Oh, I thought you said something about neglect.
Yeah, or did I say I was?
Oh, it was. Oh, it's not your story. Oh, sorry.
Also, before you quickly answer, if you don't mind, I want to say something very quickly. Okay. I was thinking about it. I'm losing it. The first question I was asked about is it how can someone be ashamed? How can someone share their stories and not be ashamed? And I was thinking, I mean, shame is not exactly the problem. It is okay to feel shame. If you want to be, if you want to get solution, you have to, I mean, when you are sick, you don't, because of shame, not go to the doctor. You have to go and be taken care of. So as a man, you must get to that point where if you want something done, you have to take a conscious step. So yeah, and that is not my story. I'm just asking. You said something, I just, I connected with it. Thank you.
Okay, so it's not basically your story. And if I'm just going to get it right, you are saying that how can someone overcome neglect, right?
No, I'm saying at what point do you get that you say, okay, this is my point of overcoming?
Okay, so a person who has been neglected basically would feel pain, would feel traumatized, would feel would have some sort of low self-esteem, would always, I mean, the negative emotions that comes with being abused, basically, because neglect is also abuse, in whatever form that it came, maybe emotional or physical, or, maybe a father figure was not even paying the person's school fees, or, withdrawing basic things from a child, basically. So how would you know that you have overcome it if you begin to make decisions that are not based on your past pain or your past trauma? I gave an example of my friend who was abused and neglected by his father, right? And that was like when he was 11 or 10. Now he's a grown man. He has a wife. He has a family, but he still doesn't want to have a child. I mean, the last time I spoke to him, he was still angry, being able to go back to the memories, and you're not angry, you're not, I mean, one thing we need to understand is that so many things that our parents did to us, it's not because our parents are bad, basically. Maybe it was the same way they were brought up, right? So a father who is who is very strict, so to speak, with his child, doesn't allow his child really do things. It's probably the way he was brought up. That's what is projected to his child, right? So one thing we have come to realize in our work with men and boys is that, these are just circles that are being passed from generation to generation. So this is how our fathers thought that it was the best way to bring up a child, by just paying school fees and not showing a boy child love, care, and emotion. They probably told our fathers to be men. That's why they're saying that that's why they expect a boy child to be men as well. And that's why they neglect his emotions, basically. So how will you know you have healed? How will you know you have overcome if you are not looking back at the situation and you are not traumatized, or you're not angry? Yes, I know that anger is the most common form of trauma, of abuse. So you're not angry, you're looking back, you're not angry at the situation. And again, you're not making decisions now that you're a grown person. You're not making decisions based on that. Like my friend, he has not healed, obviously. I mean, he obviously had the conversation with his father, but he's still traumatized from the physical abuse. So, but now he's still saying he doesn't want to have a child. Obviously, he's saying he doesn't want to have a child because he's scared of repeating the same cycle. So how will you know you have healed? The fact that you are opening a fresh new chapter for yourself. You can freely love, get married, have children, and not repeat the cycle with your children. So I hope that answers your question.
Alan, let me add.
Yeah, makes
Yes,
sense.
I'm with you.
Thank you.
You want to add to it?
So I want to add that Alima talked about the pointers to how you can know, right? I then want to add that we should also be careful to understand that it's a journey, and that the goal, it's not like a goal post, right? We shouldn't see it as a goal post, because vulnerabilities and traumas are interesting, because there are even some that we've not even encountered yet, or we've not even realized that we have them, maybe because the situations have not even aligned to the point where they trigger us, right? So, and back to emotional intelligence, our goal at the end of the day is to be in a space where we understand that we will be in situations, or that our emotions or our past or our experiences would always be an influence over us. and to create an environment where we learn how to manage them. Seeking to be in a place where we think that we're completely rid of whatever past, whatever situation might not be realistic, or might be setting ourselves up for, a standard that we cannot meet. But understanding that if something else shows up tomorrow, if tomorrow you realize that you get an understanding about yourself, you become a little bit more self-aware, and you realize that there's another situation you have to deal with, to understand that, okay, you know what, I'm human, this is a situation, and how do I manage it? To see it as an ongoing, journey of becoming better, of understanding ourselves, becoming more self-aware and dealing with issues. Sometimes I know people that, a good example will be Will Smith. Everybody that knows that man would say this man is a perfect gentleman. But someday, 40 or so years later, the triggers, the situation aligned perfectly and exposed a different part of himself. So he's not going to say, oh, I failed in all my, healing process. No, it's going to be, okay, so this is the situation. This has shown that there's something here, and then we get to deal with it. So if we wake up tomorrow and we realize that there's something about our emotions or about ourselves that we need to deal with, we understand that it's a journey, and then we make it a daily effort to become self-aware, to navigate our emotions properly. Thanks.
Well, man, well, awesome questions, awesome answers, and our time is fast spent, but 2 hands are raised, and I feel it would be unfair if we don't listen to them. It's the first session, and we don't know when next we have another one. I think we should just allow people ask their questions. Okay, Chinyu Okoro, please, you can unmute your mic and ask your question now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Lalekan. Good evening, Halima. Thank you so much for all the powerful thoughts. So, Mr. Lalekan said it's about asking the right questions. And for me, that's very interesting. So this is my question. Since I believe sexuality is the basis of life, right? If I was born into a world without men, I probably want to go back. And I think same applies for many men as well. No matter how unbearable they think women are, they still want to be in the world with women. So understanding each other would make life easier. For instance, as a woman, and I want to say that's probably why there are more women on this call than men, because we feel one of the ways we could support men is coming to learn these things. We want to learn about men. It's an innate desire. So my question is, to what extent can the reduction of this compartmentalization we do, how a man does things, you're like, why are men like this? Why are all men like this? That statement kind of puts everyone in a box. And I know human beings have the need of wanting to be validated for whom they are as individuals. So if that was to reduce, for us to stop saying, why are all men like this, and probably understand that this is the basis of men's behavior, this is psychology, but this is an individual I'm dealing with and has peculiar traits, peculiar wants, peculiar needs, and I'm going to react to a person like this. If that was possible, and I mean both ways now, both male and female, to what extent would that reduce or increase emotional intelligence, both in male and female? Because right now it's about society, right? If we have an emotionally intelligent society, then we'll probably have more emotionally intelligent men. So that's my question. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much.
I guess that question is for me, right?
Yes, boss, it's for you.
Oh, okay. And I'm sure you asked because, I talked about both of us understanding each other. So what you said is a very beautiful goal that, I'm positive, but it's a long way from where we are. It's a long way from where we are. Society is interesting. Social media is interesting. But what I would say is we must create an environment around ourselves, right? We might not be able to stop that from happening in the world, right? Or in the larger, part of the world. But one thing is to ensure that for every of those stereotypes, right, when we hear them, when people say them to us, to have a counter thought by ourselves, right? Because we would also, see, the thing is, it's something we all sometimes jump on, especially when it validates our arguments, you know, when it's reasonable to what we want to say, you know, it's something we all jump into to say, you know, that. And I think that such stereotypes and assumptions, the reason why we don't like them is when they are negative. You know, when they say that, you know, women are caring, nobody says, oh, that's a generalization. You know, it's not, right? Because that's a positive, you know, trait that has been generalized, right? But one thing I always do is to remind myself that this is just language in play. You know, when someone says all men are this, I've learned to not take it as all the person. I know that the person did not count all men and then made that assumption. So I'm like, okay, this is just a lingual issue. This person is trying to say that many men that, and it might be true, right? It might be true that many men that maybe the person has experienced or have seen have that issue. So I'm not going from the point of, no, you're saying nonsense, right? And that's understanding, you know, understanding that, okay, I understand what you are trying to say, that, you know, it helps me not dismiss what the person is saying. Because see, if someone says that everybody in Lagos is so, if it's a clear statistical conclusion, then there's some truth in it that we need to pay attention to, that we need to say, okay, so why is this happening? For example, men's challenge with emotional vulnerability, it might not be true for every single man, or it might not be in the same degree, but there's some truth to it, right? So the question is not to dismiss or to accept is to understand. And I'm big on understanding, right? To say, okay, this is what the person is trying to say. There may be some truth in it. If there's some truth in it, what is the truth and why is the truth? If the other part is not true, or why must this person have come to that conclusion? And how can I, as a person, what can I learn from it? How can I deal with it? If if someone comes to me and says, you are very stupid, I have learned to first smile and try to understand, rather than bursting out like, I am not stupid, right? Number one, stupid is a word that in that person's frame of mind might mean something. And to be honest, I just might fit into that description the person is saying, not necessarily what me think stupid is, right? And then stupid sometimes can have different, this is language, right? Language is so beautiful and so complex, right? So I'm saying, oh, I'm stupid. Okay, why did you say that? The person said, because you did not greet me yesterday. Okay, oh, I understand why you think. Because if I say, oh, you stupid meant what, you know, for example, maybe you have a parent that said that to you so many times, right? It becomes a trigger and you're like, and that's another room for conflict. So I'm saying we can reduce the conflict by our own selves being in a place of calmness or acceptance of who we are, and then seeking to understand, having genuine interests in understanding. It doesn't mean we would have to agree with people, but we can understand where they are. We can understand. If I'm on social media, a lot of women do not want to listen to a man say something. I'm not going to go there and start proving to them that they want to, I must hear. They may have experienced things that they don't want to see a man, right? And it's their experience. Until I am able to prove to them that they can see me, I would stay back and try to find a different way to approach that conversation, you know. So it's about understanding. It's about first by ourselves understanding. And as we extend that to others, you know, people are going to catch that. People are going to, they may not relate with other people. But when it comes to us, they say, okay, these guys are, so they calm down, they try to understand, and that's how we influence people. That's how we change ourselves and others. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
so much. Thank you so much. I can see someone clapping already. Thank you so much. All right, so this is a final question before we just close for today. But before I just ask the final question, please, I want us to give this whole session a feedback. Thank you, Temitope. She said her question has been answered already, even without asking. That means one of the things you must have said must have just been the answer to her question. Okay, so I'd like us to give a feedback to this whole session through a particular link, bit.ly/awesome feedback. BIT, I dropped it in the chat box. Let me just drop it again. It's not clickable from the chat box, just so you can see the right spelling. Please just go back. I know it's a lot of stress. You fill the form to join the session. Now I'm asking you to fill another form. Please, I beg you. I want to know if you would like us to continue this session. I can say that I have a good networking space of people that I know I can always invite, and they'll be glad to join us, just the same way Alima agreed to join, the same way Lekon agreed to join. Okay, so I just want to know if we should continue this, or we should just do it once and just forget about it. Okay, please just help us to fill the feedback form. Okay, last question for today's, and this goes straight to Olaleko. You answer the question and we'll just close for today. You say, can men truly handle pressure? That's the question. The person just wants to know, can men, in all sincerity, in all honesty, can they handle pressure?
Okay, that's an interesting question. So I'll start by saying that the human mind has amazing capacity and ability, right? And pressure is, they're different. I mean, pressure is large, right? But the human mind is able to exist, and to deal with so many situations. And that's why we are still here as human, as civilization, because we have survived, many things. Nobody would have thought that we will be here. Sometimes some of us have even forgotten that COVID happened, right? But as an entire people, as the entire world, we survived. Of course, not without a lot of things that happened, but we're here, So that tells you that we can survive, we can handle pressure. However, stress happens when our internal ability cannot withstand what is happening outside, right? When the external pressure overcomes the internal pressure. If you look at ourselves, you see that I'm not necessarily talking about men now, because it's really not, I would maybe just end with that. But then if you look at yourself, there are certain things that people have said to you. Let me take that small bit of, let's say, external pressure. There are sometimes that people have said nasty things to you, but you were too excited to be affected by it. And there are times that you were really in a bad situation that something very little, you just blew up, right? The pressure in a way is constant, right? What determined if you survived that or not is your internal environment, right? So, and my goal recently to talk to people is to create a system where you are whole inside. Because some pressure that we deal with there, it's not going to go away in the nearest days or weeks. Nigeria is not just going to get better, like by next year, February, once we finish voting, everything will just be fine. We will still deal with certain things, right? Lagos traffic, we will still deal with it. Bosses that the demand for education, the demand to get married. Alan, you will probably still not be able to convince all your family member that they should not pressure you to get married, right? So we still are going to deal with those things. What is important is creating an environment within us that helps us to withstand. Creating, and it's something as simple as getting enough sleep daily as individuals, right? Proper sleep, right? We're able to make more informed decisions even when we're pressured. Eating properly, like eating properly, intentionally, not in terms of volume or, intentionally. Our brain cells are able to function properly. Halima talked about working out. It's for everybody. We're in a better mental state, to deal with issues. I'm also not married, but it really doesn't get to me because I've found a way within myself to deal with it by being self-aware, by understanding why I am, here, what decisions have I made, come to terms with them. Not necessarily that everything is right, but understand that, okay, I made a decision here. I am not wrong, but I made a decision here. And now this is the decision I need to make now to align myself, to a better, future. So can men handle pressure? Determines or depends on how we are internally. And that's why men must begin to that's why we need to begin to take, care of ourselves. There are many responsibilities that we have that we might not be able to shelve right yet. The goal is not trying to remove the responsibility. Of course, if we can, let's do that. There are many responsibilities we take up by ourselves that we don't even need to. Do you understand? We don't need to do that. But putting ourselves in a state of mind where we're able to deal with it and creating a routine, right? If we're having a mental health conference on 13, right? And the theme is healthy routines for mental health, right? When you go out in the morning, you will be stressed. So let me give an example. I know at the time of the day where my stress level gets to a particular height, so I create an environment where I have enough activity early in the morning that can last me longer. And then by that time, I create something else around that time that can help me to, relax and be better, So it's about planning your work, your activity, your task in a way that you can balance, and that's the emotional intelligence, understanding that there's only so much that you can do, or there's only so far that you can go, understanding it, accepting, and then figuring out a way to make it. Some of us just need to dance more, right? That when you're dancing, you're excited. Okay, so schedule a particular time of the day, every day, to dance. That's very intelligent to do, right? Some of us, when you talk to your mom or when you talk to a child, you feel relieved. Okay, so create an environment. It could be volunteering, in a child care place or something. Or for some of us, it's religion. For some of us, it's religion. And we need to stop saying religion as the problem of the world. You understand? It's not. Religion offers us hope, offers us community, offers us physical activities. If you go to church, either you are sad or not, the pastor will say, talk to your neighbor. Your neighbor will smile at you. They will say, stand up, sit down, raise up your hand. That is physical activity. They'll say, wait after the service. To you, no matter how angry you are, you will wait, you will talk to someone will smile at you, someone will check up on you, all right? So it's, at the end of the day, it's about creating an environment around ourselves that helps us undo whatever externals come. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. I like how all the facilitators, they just don't answer the questions. They explain through the questions, and we eventually gain more even when they answer the question. Thank you so much, Olalekan. This has been a very, very impactful session, and I am grateful that you chose to honor the invitation. Okay, to just wrap up this evening, I would just like Halima to just say a final word. She's not answering any question again. She's just giving us a final word so we can just close for the day. Thank you very much, Halima.
Thank you, Olalekan. That was an entire masterclass on mental health, and I'm definitely going to be applying it. So final words is just to be kind. I think that's just the ultimate goal in life. To be kind to people online, be kind to people offline, be there for people, I mean, you can still see them. I mean, I saw a post today on my friend's contact, and she was like, even if we haven't talked in many years, please feel free to reach out to me for help, and I'll be willing to help you. I mean, that goes against the popularly held notion that, I mean, I've not talked to you in years, don't even come near me. You don't know what people are going through. You don't know what has held them down. So it's important for us to be kind. And she ended by saying that I'd rather be there for you than have you on the other side. And that really struck me. So please, let's just learn to be kind to one another, male, female. Please, let's just learn to be kind. So thank you, Alan, for putting such a wonderful, so therapeutic, wonderful program together. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. Thank you so.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, very quickly, I just have to do this because our facilitators agreed to do this for free, and I just want to use this medium to say a very big thank you to them. But also, Leko himself is having an event. He's having an event this month. Yes, I think this month. That should be on the 13th of December. So I would like him to. He wanted me to announce it myself, but I think it would be best he announces it himself. He's going to be launching a book, and there will be a mini seminar. So, Lekon, please, I think it would be best you should just explain it yourself and just let us know what you would have us do: attend, register, pay to attend, or whatever it is. Buy your book. Just close the session by telling us about your event.
All right. Thank you everyone for really being a part of this. So the book is titled Inspired by Dodo. Dodo plantain. Yeah, it's just something that I'm obsessed with, that I just was inspired by anyways. But the book is essentially about mental health for young people, and some of the things I've said here also, in the book, how we can understand ourselves more and then create a system that works for us. So maybe Alan will send a link, but inspiredbydodo.com.ng, we can get all the information there. And then the book launch and mental health conference is on 13th of December here in Lagos, Yaba. There's also details on the website. It's free to attend. The book is sold, but it's free to attend. And so you can get details on the website. Thank you, everyone. It's been insightful. And thank you, Alan, for doing this too.
I will be there.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. It has been an exciting session this evening. I am so grateful. All right. Thank you. A lot of people. So I've dropped the link to get details about the event, inspiredbydodo.com.ng. It's very easy to remember, inspiredbydodo.com.ng. And also remember to please fill in the feedback form, please. Bit link is bit.ly/awesome feedback. Someone fill the form, and I just want to quickly state what the person learned. He said emotional intelligence goes further into creating an acceptable and safe environment. That's what the person learned from the session. And the person also answered the question of what other topics would you like us to treat on. The person says social language, how to accommodate and understand nuances. These are critical questions. So I'm going to do a compilation of all of these questions. Look out for facilitators that can really do justice to them. And maybe sometime next month, that will be in the new year, in January or February, would also have another session like this again. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to seeing us physically, for those of us in Lagos, at the Inspired by Dodo event. And also for those of us who are online, you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter at Alan Zito on all platforms. And also you can also follow the One Boy Project on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining in, and God bless you. Good night, everyone. The call will be open for a few minutes for those who just want to interact or meet one or two persons. So you're free to say hi. So I will leave. I'll be the last person to leave. I don't have issues with internet, so I will be the last person to leave. So everyone can just stay on the call as long as they want. Bye, everyone.